Yep.
Looks like we're going. Welcome to the dev meeting, everyone, April 10th, 2024, for Flux.
Hello. So we have some things to announce. We have posted the schedule for the next minor release of Flux version 2.3, which comes with many new features, improvements, but also deprecations. I'm going to post the link here if someone can add it to the agenda. We are aiming for the next release, we are aiming for the first week of May. I have decided to, we try to settle for end of this month, but given the amount of issues and pull requests still in progress, I moved the target date for the first week of May. If we are going to get all things done in the last week, I could update the target dates, but I don't want to give anybody high hopes on this. Yeah, so that's the main thing. We are still on. We made some progress, but still the major things that need to be merged aren't merged yet. Sule, can you say something about the status with the OCI repo in Helm controller?
Well, the OCI repo with Helm controller, since our last discussion about it last week, I have tested it again. I put in a comment results of my test, so it works as expected. I think I've tested all scenarios I could think of. The thing about annotation cannot work, so for now we have to move the digest around the snapshot on the release to make sure it's consistent. But and I have started the documentation as well. So I'm moving on 2 fronts here. But now I need someone to approve it so we can move forward, and I can start adding the Helm chart reference as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to review this today, and okay, maybe after you add the Helm chart and we merge that as well, we can publish a preview image. And then I can run the benchmark with it as well, just to see if there aren't any regressions in terms of speed.
Can you also, if you do that, can you also compare the memory consumption when you have one chart ref and all the chart templates that are having Helm charts? It shouldn't be much, only the number of objects, yes. But it would be nice to see.
Yeah, so in the benchmark, after the benchmark finishes, we list the memory usage, but we don't have a way to do that as an average. We just do keep still top pods.
Okay.
To observe the memory usage in parallel, someone needs to run it on their machine and look at the Grafana dashboard. Yeah, maybe I can set it up on my Mac, but yeah, I don't think it will be much of a help on my Mac because it's too powerful and the the garbage collector is very fast. Someone needs to run it on an Intel to actually see memory differences. Anyway, maybe we can ask Sunny when he comes back to do it.
I think I have a machine. I have a Linux machine. As for
Is Intel?
Intel, yeah, I think it is. I have to check.
If you don't, I have my whole home cluster is Intel.
Cool. So let's do it like that. I review, we merge that pull request, you add a hand chat, then we publish a preview image and we ask in the maintainers Slack channel for people to test it. I will update the bench. I'll create a branch in the benchmark repo so you can just check out the branch, run the 3 commands, and while they're running, you can open the dashboard. So in the benchmark setup on that on the cluster, on the kind cluster, we also deploy Grafana, Prometheus, everything. So we have the hand chats there.
Right.
Kintam, I wanted to ask, do you have on your cluster running the monitoring example?
I do. On the root of all the V clusters, there's a bunch of V clusters, but only one is running Prometheus.
Yeah, okay, but on that one, do you have what's in the monitoring example?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I'm keeping up with it.
Okay, so we have a report that when you upgrade to the latest kubeprom stack, the metrics no longer work. It only shows the metrics for the hand release. I'm going to post in the chat. So if you have it running, maybe you can upgrade kubeprom stack to latest, I don't know, 58, the latest 58 release or whatever is latest. And then see if the resource info for customization, Git repos, and so on still have data. You need to wait like 20 minutes or something like that and see if data is coming or not for that resource. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so there was a bug in the kube state metrics that broke completely our info metric. Then they did a new release that fixed it, but some people are reporting that it shows up, but only for one kind, only for hand release, instead of showing up for everything. So I'm not sure if it's something wrong with that particular setup or is a new bug in kube state metrics. For now, we have kube state metrics pinned on an older version that works for sure, but we should upgrade the whole Prometheus stack for the Flux 2.3 release to latest. And I don't want to upgrade to latest if it's broken. So if you can test it out and write on that issue, your findings will be good.
Got it. Sure, I can check it out today.
Awesome, thanks. Okay. Another thing I want to just mention here. So I've been working on this week on a new example repo for running Flux on a central cluster and reconciling targets clusters without installing Flux everywhere. and I will probably make this repo public soon. It's currently private in the fluxcd.org. I'm finishing up the first draft for it. And the goal will be, like, many people complain that our docs around running Flux in a hub and spoke mode are not great because we only have documentation in the API specs for how you can give kubeconfig to a customization and a hand release, but it's quite the structure that we currently have in our examples repos will not work, of course, because you need a total different repo structure. You need to be very careful how you reconcile things. For example, you can no longer have in a manifest file a namespace, a hand release, and a Helm repo. The namespace has to be in a different customization that applies to the target cluster, and the Helm release and the Helm repo has to apply on the management cluster, and the Helm release has to have the kubeconfig mounted there. So due to this change in structure, people can't just use the example repo that we have today. So I have the structure ready. It looks great. It's not that complicated. I made use of Flux variable substitution to trim down the overlays. And yeah, just a heads up, if you have time this week to test, or next week to test this repo out. I also wrote end-to-end tests with Kubernetes kind and GitHub Actions, and everything works. But I would really like for someone here, all of you, to look over it and see what can be improved. The docs will not be very detailed for now, but I'm slowly working towards it. So it's just a heads up that I'm going to make this repo public probably today or tomorrow. Okay, that's it from me. Any other things?
I have also started to amend the OCI cheat sheet document to add everything related to notation. But I'm waiting for Jason to submit the pull request about the CLI command Flux create secret notation in order to have this done because this we need it for the new version. Yeah, that's it. I think the last bug that was identified on M controller is fixed now. So on that side, everything is fine.
From my side, I just wanted to know if someone could point me in the direction of syncing like a repo A's documentation to the main Flux website, and where we're going to locate that documentation for the provider on the website itself. I think that's the only outstanding thing I really have left to do before the release.
Oh, Steve, I was thinking about this, and basically we have all the docs now in the guides, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe we don't need to sync some page, and we can just list all the guides for now in the main website.
Yeah, unless we just have a section on the main website literally linking to the Terraform registry provider doc. That's another option. So just link off from there.
Okay, so we have this link, this section here. And also on
Okay,
the
that might work.
upgrade, we also mention upgrade with Terraform. So maybe in the first section, Bootstrap with Terraform, like we have for Bootstrap with Flux CLI, where we enumerate some of the guides, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, whatever. Here in the Bootstrap with Terraform, we can link to add the links to the, I don't know, we choose 4 examples, 4 or 5 examples.
Okay, that works.
GitHub path, GitHub with customization, GitLab, and GitLab PGP or something like that. I think
Sure.
you
Okay.
can already make a pull request for this one because we have the examples already in the repo, and now we no longer depend on them getting published to registry Terraform.
Yep.
Great.
Cool. Okay, I'll do that. The other one was to discuss adding a stale and locked GitHub action. So I've linked to the issue there that kind of explains how we could do that. So that would essentially be stale after 30 days and then close after the next 30. Or maybe we shorten that close period. Because there's quite a lot that are still there, but they do have quite a lot of inactivity on them. So
Yeah, we've been avoiding having this kind of bot. I don't know what you think, Kindan. If we do that, we should do it and close hundreds of issues across the whole repo. I don't see why Terraform should be special. But closing hundreds of issues with a bot feels very hostile to users.
It would be pretty unprecedented in the Flux history. We have usually taken care to close every issue by hand, and I don't know if we're really in dire straits where we need to make a drastic change like that.
I'm okay with closing them. I just think we need to hold a precedent of how long we allow them to be stale for, and then when we do close them. So kind of like a manual version of the stale bot, just with some agreement on, how long we wait from it from an inactivity perspective.
I'm not
Well,
sure we'd be super consistent about that, because as long as there's an attempt to communicate that's not followed up, as a maintainer, you really have the prerogative to close and reopen issues at your discretion.
Mhm.
So
another thing, last week I fixed issues which were open 3 years ago. So it took us 3 years to find a solution and close those issues. Were those stale because they were open 3 years? No, they weren't.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Having a bot that says, oh, if it's older than I don't know how many weeks, it's stale, we are not an army of maintainers. We can't fix issues on a deadline, right?
Mhm.
Some issues takes years to be fixed. So yeah, I really think a bot will not help us, but will just make our users very angry, and Yeah, I mean, if an issue is open and it's a bug or a missing feature, it is never stayed. It's there as long as a person doesn't decide, a maintainer doesn't say, hey, we are not going to ever ship this feature because reasons, and then you close it. But otherwise, marking it as stay, like, I don't think it's. I mean, Kubernetes does it, and people are very angry, and I was very angry a bunch of times where I opened an issue, hey, this is a real big problem, and the bot came and closed it.
I think
And
there
it got
could be-
fixed after a year or something also. So, but yeah.
there could be an argument for a single repository where there's, say, a single maintainer who is which is not really accurate for any of the repos in Flux, because the core maintainer is a maintainer for all the repos. But let's say we had a single neglected repo that just had a lot of issues and the maintainer felt overwhelmed. That would be maybe a place where we could exercise some automation to make it better. I know, like, the pull request bot that sends a pull request that a single maintainer can review and approve and merge is super helpful in certain places. So I don't want to close the door to automation completely, but I think that's still a step for we're not there yet.
I'm good with that.
Anything else?
Not from my side.
Okay. For one more thing about the Terraform provider. Can we? So we have several examples with GitHub. One that sets up the cluster with an SSH key, and then we destroy it. And we have another one which is quite identical, but it also does some customizations. Is there a way to, let's say I'm doing the initial bootstrap with one example, then I run the next example with the customization, or the state will mess up, or how that?
You'll get messed up with the state, because the state is well, in the examples, the state is stored locally and it'll be local to that directory. So then when you try and fire it up again in the other example, it just wouldn't work, because it would clash. Mainly because right now the kind name is the same on each example, but you wouldn't have regardless of that, you wouldn't have an easy way of being able to kind of do what you were saying without actually changing the example content.
So what I would really want to see in the end-to-end test for GitHub is bootstrap with the customization, then change something in the customization, like you pass some parameters to another Terraform apply that does a replacement in the customization file. And then we check that that thing actually worked, because given the reports, I'm not sure if this is a problem or not.
Yeah. I've run a couple of examples locally and can validate that it does upgrade as expected.
So it does the apply when you change something in the file or when you change a variable?
I think I changed a variable.
That ends up in the state, right? So it's normal that it doesn't apply. What people were saying, like, they aren't changing a Terraform variable, they go into the template, the customization.yaml template, and they change something there. They add a new patch.
Oh,
which is not.
yeah, I did that as well. So I hard coded a value in there, and it did it. So I added another annotation. I called the annotation foo in a variable substitution. Then I added another one manually called bar, and it worked.
And it worked. So
I think I know what they're
when
doing, which I don't think we're going to be able to stop. Which is, I think what's happening is they're changing it in Git and then trying to do it. But I haven't validated that for sure. But that's the next one I'm going to test. But I'm pretty certain that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
impossible to work like that, right? You either use Terraform as the desired state or you don't use Terraform at all. Mixing changes in Git and Terraform will always result in some bad things.
exactly.
Yeah, so what you are saying is that if you call the file template function in Terraform,
Mhm.
and you change the template file, when you do an apply, the template is compiled and stored in the state, right? So the state changes because it's
correct,
not only values, it's also the file on disk that gets runs through the template. Okay. So it will always detect a drift. Doesn't matter if it's a file on disk or a variable that you pass during apply.
Yeah, the problem is changing it in Git, and I'm 99% sure that's what people are doing, because that definitely doesn't work because it's not in the state file.
Right, and it will probably override it in Git, right? Because it does a push.
Yep, exactly.
And you lose whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's normal. Like you have like 3 states. It's impossible for Terraform to reconcile 3 things. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, is that all we have for today? Any last minute agenda items?
Not from me.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Going to give you a ping when I have the new example repo, and I would really like for someone to test it.
Great.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.